Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here. Thanks for joining me for Life Recovery Today. I want to start off talking about the thing that starts off recovery, and it's that thing called surrender, where we essentially say, okay, whatever strategy I have chosen here, not so great, not getting where I want to go. And to admit that we, in and of ourselves, don't have the power to change it, kind of opens up the door to surrender all that and let God do what only God can do. So the law of surrender that's here in the little 12 laws of life recovery, it says that surrender brings victory. So we look back and we say, well, you know what? I surrendered and I'm not really experiencing or feeling that victorious. No, I'm not eating or drinking or having sex or any of the addictions that I have fallen into, but I'm not really experiencing a lot of victory. Then we have to ask ourselves, is there something somewhere in my life that I need to surrender? In other words, I surrender the big picture, but maybe there are a couple of details that I've missed. So I have to ask you, are you miserable because you're still trying to control somebody that will not be controlled because they're a human being and human beings can't be controlled? Is there a part of your past that you really haven't surrendered to God and allowed that grace, that mercy to fully cover that and have it in your past totally resolved and taken care of? Maybe that's something that's never been surrendered. Here's something. What is it about the future that has this looming presence that causes you to wonder, am I going to be okay? Is it going to be all right? Because I wasted $18 million while I was doing whatever it was, am I now going to be financially insecure the rest of my life? Here's the thing. We might need to surrender the future so that I can just focus on whatever I can do today. I really do believe that surrender leads us to victory. And when we don't have or feel or experience victory, we have to go back and say, is my surrender incomplete? When I was 9, I surrendered everything to God. And then I began to take it all back, one by one, and therein lies the problem and the struggle of my life, and I had to re-surrender it all again. Well, that's what recovery is all about, a daily surrender. We're going to talk with Corey Busk about his daily surrender and other areas of his recovery when we come back. Thanks for watching Life Recovery Today.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here, and my good friend, new good friend, Corey Busk. Corey, thanks for being with us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you work for New Day Treatment Center.
I do, and I'm a proud alum. So.
They worked on you.
They did.
Now you work with them.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So first of all, where is that located?
So our headquarters here in Indy, but then we have an inpatient facility down in Bloomfield, about maybe 20 minutes south of Bloomington.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what do you treat?
So we do all substances.
Yeah.
And pretty much that's where we're at right now. We're about to open up to more like gambling and sexual addiction, things like that. But yeah, all substances at the moment.
It's risky. All right. Gambling. Okay. So here's a question for you.
Sure.
You're an alumni because you had a need.
Right.
Because you had a problem.
Right.
So what was that?
So alcohol was my deal.
Okay.
So actually I just hit my 1 year here recently.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
you got started drinking in college, high school, what?
right after college.
Right after college.
So
Okay.
dabbled a little bit in college and then a little bit in high school, but mostly after college.
Did you have a time where you would just say you were kind of a normal drinker, or did you just dive head first into the crummy stuff?
I mean, self-protective me wants me to say, yeah, at the beginning I was probably a normal drinker, but I mean, I think it progressed very quickly. So,
Okay.
yep.
And do you remember what drinking was like in the beginning, or what you remember it felt like or did for you?
Oh, it was I don't want to glamorize it too much, but it was fun, and the reason why I say that it was fun is because in life I'm very controlled, very kind of stuck to a plan, kind of OCD about everything that I do, and so drinking, I mean, it let me let go and kind of be free of everything that I wanted to do. So
Right.
So I'd go back to it all the time, especially in times of stress, anxiety, things like that. You know, the normal.
Well, I've talked to people and I say to them, so what's drinking like for you? And
Sure.
and they talk about, I just might be under such tremendous stress and all of a sudden life is rainbows and everything. And what they're describing were their first drinking experiences.
Oh, sure.
And then I remind them, now let's see, 2 weeks ago you were in the drunk tank, people were throwing up on you.
Right.
Isn't that really what drinking feels like? And they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no one talks about the hangovers the next day.
No, that's
Right.
that's right. So at the height of your drinking career,
Right.
how much could you drink? And if you were going to set out on a Saturday to drink, what do you think that would consist of?
So the way that I would tell people is I would probably start with about 2 bottles of wine.
2 bottles of wine, that'd be your
to
start. Okay,
and
good start.
Right, and then it would progress into any kind of liquor. So that would vary. So I know money wise how much I'd spend, but so I'd say at the bars a month over $1,500 or more dollars, which didn't count like going to the grocery store and picking up whatever I need to pick up.
But when you let's say on a given day, a couple of bottles of wine and then some liquor on top of that, what would be a typical day of drinking? Like, what do you think? One bottle of vodka or whiskey?
No,
half?
I'd probably say once it dipped into the liquor, it'd be, I don't know, maybe a fourth of a bottle or half.
All right.
So, but it depended on what I was doing for the day.
Yeah.
So,
and just to kind of remind people, we're not really made to drink a couple of bottles of wine, much less adding the liquor to it.
Sure.
And I didn't know the answer, what you were going to tell me, but it does fit in with what I have observed about every person that is an alcoholic.
Okay.
Not necessarily a problem drinker. Problem drinker, my girlfriend breaks up with me, I'm depressed, I go out and drink. Somebody says, you really ought to get some help for your depression. And I go to a therapist, I don't need to drink anymore or get drunk anymore.
Sure.
That's not the story for an alcoholic. And in every situation that I've worked with an alcoholic, since 1977, if you can imagine that, they've all had one thing in common, and that is the ability to drink a lot of alcohol.
Sure.
And almost every psychologist I work with, until they've worked with me a while, I convince them, they want to believe that, well, there's a weakness there, and that causes this person to want to drink. Well, a person going to happy hour might want some relief or whatever,
Sure.
but because they don't have a high tolerance, they go to happy hour the rest of their life.
Right.
But you and me, same thing, we had a gift, so to speak,
Yeah.
of high tolerance. And that's why a person gets addicted, is
Yeah.
they can drink a lot. And of course, toward the end, tolerance does go away, and that final little mini bottle kills you one day. But you've experienced what it's like to spend a lot of money on this thing called alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
and really develop a dependency that's, in and of yourself, you can't stop it. So
Sure.
what was it like at the worst point? What happened to you that caused you to say, okay, I've got to stop, or forced to stop?
Great question.
Yeah.
So a few years before, like the big moment, I was living with a group of people who I always had a great, group of people around me that care. And so I remember one night I said, guys, I think, I don't know, I think I've been drinking a lot. And so they said, yeah, we actually wanted to talk to you about that. But we're kind of nervous what you'd say. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm that guy, right? Where
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, so I kind of took the hint and, a couple days later, went to happy hour, right? So
Right.
that didn't last very long. So there was a course of over a couple of years where it was like, well, I'll stop. Sometimes it'd be the same day, go back, sometimes 2 days, sometimes 2 weeks. But probably the max was about 2 weeks that I could go without having a drink. So about a year ago, I was called into our CEO's office of the company I was working for, who was my direct boss. And he said, hey, something's going on. Your performance is not, something's wrong. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no way. I do this, I do this, I do that. And he said, no, we really need to talk about this. This keeps happening over and over. We're noticing something.
Yeah.
And so a couple days later, he called me back in and fired me. Well, my whole identity was wrapped in that job, in who I was. And so anything good, that was who I was. Anything bad, major failure.
Oh,
so,
boy.
Yeah.
So you got fired.
I did.
And then what'd you do?
Went home and actually jumped on a work webinar. So I was like, okay, well, I went home. Still didn't realize what was going on. And a mentor of mine called, who actually is in recovery, and called and just said, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, I just got fired from my job. And he's like, well, what do you need? And I said, I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to go. Now I'm the guy who, had a problem, got fired from his job. And he said, okay, let me work on helping you find a place. And so that was on a Friday. That next week I was checking into rehab.
Excellent.
So,
Well, it's nice to have a friend who
Oh,
says,
yeah.
let me help you find what you need and not what you want.
sure.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the recovery process, the getting into rehabilitation and recovery for restoration versus, just trying to bide your time and get in, get out, and get back to whatever life brings. So often when somebody tells us there's a problem, well, then we think the goal is quitting or stopping. And it really isn't. And so we set out, we prove, okay, I can go 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever. Has nothing to do with what really needs to happen, which is I need to recover. I need restoration. I need God to come in and do a complete makeover. That's what we're going to talk about right after this. Thanks for being here for Life Recovery Today.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis, someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Corey Busk is my guest here, talking about, I guess over a year ago, really things got out of hand, and then you got into treatment because you had a guy that said, I'm going to help you find what you need. I just love that.
Yeah.
If you've never helped anybody find what they need, that'd be a cool thing. So what do you remember about treatment when you got in there, and how long were you in treatment?
So I was actually in there for 22 days.
22 days.
Due to insurance limitations. So,
yeah, right.
So 22 days, but I had a good friend drop me off, and they said, okay, well, you're kind of here late in the day, and we're going to have dinner at this time, but you're kind of free to hang out and do what you need to do. We went through the intake process and all that, and I remember sitting outside and being like, I'm in rehab. Like, what happened? How did we get here?
Yeah.
And so every day we would learn a new aspect, and there's a couple things that I remember being in there. Then the first one is a week in, I was still thinking about drinking, and I was in a group session, and one of the therapists said, how are you feeling? Everything's unpacked in rehab. How are you feeling? And I'm like, well, I'm just kind of annoyed. He's like, tell me why. I said, well, I have a couple weddings in a couple months when I get out of here. I'd love to cheers and toast to my friends getting married. And he's okay. And the people in there with me were like, Corey, are you still thinking about drinking? And I'm like, no, I'm talking about celebrating my friends, and they're like, hello, do you know where you're at? So there was like that moment of like a wake up of like, okay, all right, my distorted thinking it's still prevalent. Yeah. So there was that aspect. But I remember about halfway through my time, so maybe 11 days in, I was sitting by myself. We were in between sessions, and I thought, I was remembering all the things that I had done while I was in active addiction. And I was like, I don't know I can forgive myself. And so I was sitting there, and I'm like, just remembering, instance after instance after instance. And I don't know, it had to have been Holy Spirit. It came in and said, well, okay, well, think about Jesus and what forgiveness means to Jesus. And I was like, okay, oh, well, what does forgiveness mean for Jesus? Yeah. I'd sang the songs, I've heard the sermons, I've been in church for years. Like, what does it exactly mean? And I just felt like, okay, what forgiveness, very present moment. And it acknowledges, okay, yeah, the past happened, but it doesn't dictate the future, and it doesn't mean that's what's happening right now. And so, and I felt like, Holy Spirit was like, you don't ever have to do that ever again. Whatever you're thinking about, you don't ever have to go through that again. Wow. And so, from that moment on, I said, okay, I'm in this. Like, yes, it all happened, but it doesn't have to be my identity moving forward. Yeah. And so I always have to remember that. Every day, because it comes up all the time, in my head. It doesn't erase what happened. No. But it just says it doesn't ever have to happen again. And how you're feeling right now may not. It doesn't mean that that's who you are. Yeah.
One of the fascinating things to me is, and in my own experience, is that every day was an opportunity to drink. I enjoyed drinking. Sure. And enjoyed the feeling it gave me, all that kind of stuff, and everything around it. And, it was hard for me to imagine what's going to happen on St. Patrick's Day and Cinco de Mayo, those kind of things. Right. But that something could happen, and this is available to any person. Something could happen, and you go from, this is part of my life, I love this part of my life, to, it is no part of my life, and I don't miss it. That really is recovery and transformation. Sure. What did you experience in treatment that would be a tool that you picked up there that you put it into use when you got out of there? What were they teaching you? What did you take out of it?
A couple simple things. Routine. Like I still, a year later, I went to bed at 11 o'clock when I was there, and I woke up at 7 every day. Still do that. But also, like, what does a community around you look? What are they supposed to do? Yeah. Like, who actually should be your accountability person? Who just needs to be support? not the person you're accountable to, but your close friend who just needs to be your close friend.
Yeah.
Right. So, and your parents need to be your parents, and things like that. So, a support group, and also when you are in a situation where you're triggered and a craving hits, and I would just be driving by a place, and then all of a sudden it would hit, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I used to go there all the time. But what do you do in that moment? Because that opportunity arises, and what do you do in that moment? Who do you call? And so
what did you do? What did you have set up for that moment?
Oh, sure. So I had a group of people that I didn't necessarily. I said, hey, if I ever need you, and I'm going to call you. But I did it in a way where I didn't necessarily tell them why I was calling.
Okay.
So because honestly, it freaks some people out.
Yeah.
Right. It triggers them, right? Of like, oh gosh, you're going to do it again. So I just call, hey, how's life? What's going on? And that typically can get my mind off of it. If not, then I picked up things like painting and writing and exercise and things like that.
But I think so important, and some people are not ever humble enough to do this, and then they get in trouble. Everything's in place, except for that one thing. Like they'll say, okay, I'll never drink again, I don't want to drink, nothing.
Right.
But they don't ever do that what if thing. Now, what if I did get to that point? And then you have that backup plan or that system in place that you're going to go to that just becomes natural to you.
Yeah.
Tell me about, you're a Christian, you went to this program. How did you figure out 12 steps, Christianity, God, that all can work together versus what some people say, Jesus is over here, 12 steps are of Satan, never the twain shall meet.
Right, sure. And I'm like, I didn't come up through the 12 steps. But I do know they work for some folks, So, but at New Day, they incorporate the evidence-based treatment and Jesus all at the same time. So they believe in, hey, your body's going through stuff, but also your spirit's going through stuff. Let's handle both at the same time. So, but when I got out, I would go to AA meetings, but also Celebrate Recovery meetings. Different types of recovery meetings, because I wanted the whole gambit.
Right.
Because I thought, who's to say the 12 steps don't work? I don't know. I have no idea. So, but through like a Celebrate Recovery type of group, I went through the 12 steps, and once you get to that fourth one on making the amends.
Yeah.
Woo,
Well, it seems like to me, when you get out of treatment, even if you went to a group of recovery people that were looking at poetry.
Oh, sure.
Just the fact that you'd be with other recovery people, that would be a benefit. But, people will find all sorts of reasons. Well, I don't believe in this, or I'm not going to do that. And hey, just get with some other people that might be able to relate a little bit to what you're going through. I think that is huge.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Steve, I have never seen a better example of church than in a recovery group.
Yeah.
Not my whole life, in all the churches I've been in. The most church that I can think of, the best example of a church is in a recovery group.
Yeah, years ago, I've told this many times, Bruce Larson and Keith Miller wrote a book, The Edge of Adventure. And in there they say, I think the closest thing to what Jesus meant for the church to be, you would find in a bar, they said, because everybody knows your name. You come in, you can say, oh, I've blown it, and they offer you, a good, supportive, whatever. And I think probably at the time they wrote that was probably true.
Sure.
But now we have seen recovery groups start to be in a church, and I got to tell you, that's a little bit better than the bar. And so I think we've upgraded a little bit since those times. Okay, so before we go to a break, finish this up. Tell me something today that is helping you the most in your life, have a quality of life, whether it relates to recovery, alcohol, 12 steps. But what is it that really is important to you and is providing you with enjoyment, fulfillment, really makes you glad to be alive?
Oh, sure. Well, and it has to do with recovery. My whole goal is to help people get free and stay free.
Yeah.
So that's the more crucial part. Most people can go away, to a program for 30 days, but to stay free, that's hard.
Yeah.
And to really connect with people. I mean, there's so much shame around, addiction and recovery, and it's like, and I get it. And so just being with people, sitting with people, that sometimes you don't even say anything, just sitting with people, but just being a resource and a help for people to get free and stay free, there's nothing better.
Awesome.
Nothing better.
I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time for you to go from enjoying being with a bottle to being with a brother and helping them to become all that they can be. I want to talk to you about that when we come back, about this thing about helping other people. We need each other. And so sometimes we're missing so much of life because we're not there for each other. Corey, thanks for all that you've shared. New Day Treatment Center. You can find out, what's the website?
thenewdaycenter.com.
newdaycenter.com. Find out about that. We'll take a break and we'll come right back for our final segment. And if you need some help, don't forget 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's where all of our resources are found.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. The New Testament is really clear about us needing each other. And when I think about it, there are two really big reasons we need each other. One, it says we need to build each other up. I need to be built up, and especially when I'm down. The other thing is we need to rescue people that are staggering toward the slaughter, literally. And sometimes that person that needs rescuing is me. So it's important that we are in community, connected to each other, building each other up and helping each other when we get into trouble. If you need some help, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. If you don't have a Life Recovery Bible, that's the tool to get today. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.